Welcome, everyone, to the Tesla Beat podcast, number 71. We have our regulars. We have Brian, FutureAza, and Joe, not teleoperated. That's pretty sweet. Hans could not be with us this week, and we were able to source one of our former co-hosts, Alexandra, Tesla Boomer Mama. How's it going?
Just fine. Great to be back. No, not
thank
regularly.
you.
No.
You want to? No, we don't want to wake you up too early. So, but thanks for coming on such short notice.
There you go, my beauty Steve. Thank you.
All right.
Well, it's working. You still look beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Joe. And it's not teleoperated.
Exactly. This is how she actually looks. Beautiful.
That's true.
And your glasses are fantastic. I suspect you've been getting fashion advice from Jeff.
Right. Yeah. You know that Jeff,
fashionable.
he said that publicly. He has a guy in Chicago who actually sources glasses for the most famous, and that's where he goes. And the guy is brilliant. So I think I should go there. Like, you know, Jeff's glasses, they suit him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
but Jeff always looks great.
Yeah.
True.
Pretty much. All right. Well, let's get into it. Tesla Beat number 71. Joe, thanks for sourcing this amazing grok image. Flood fighters, you know what we do. All right. So Tesla stock, obviously flat. It even was down about 5+% the day after. Typical when it comes to Tesla earnings or something big and so futuristic that analysts cannot model into their models. So not surprised here, but pretty much flat week over week. All right, well, let's just get into this. Joe, I'll pass this one to you.
So this was put up by James. He has all these crazy charts. And I thought this was interesting because over a 5-year period, you can see the progression of where Tesla is versus all other vehicles, in luxury brands. Like Tesla just keeps moving forward. Whereas, as we know, there's a lot of capitulation and people are like bowing out and, oh, these EVs aren't selling. We're going to go to hybrids and all this type of stuff. And I just thought this was a really great chart that he put out. And the next 5 years are going to be even crazier. So
James is a real wizard with charts. And if you're not following him at @I_cannot_enough, you're missing out. He also loves to dunk on some of the more ridiculous members of the Tesla Q community. It's a tough competition. They're all pretty insane.
And his hair game is the best in the industry.
Can't teach that.
Facts.
Right.
Yeah, one of the most iconic photos is him and Martin at I think it was a shareholder meeting, right, where he won Martin actually invited him out and stuff. So, but yeah, no, I think with this, it's just, I think people forget, continue to forget what Tesla's doing. That a lot of these legacy auto are not only declining in sales year over year, but Tesla continues to just win and lead in a lot of these spaces. And, I think people still think of Tesla as a luxury brand, and, they still, in some states, there's the incentives are insane. And so it's becoming way more affordable. So I still think that there's more to do that they can do to make it even more affordable. But, Tesla, like this chart, if you had shown us this chart 3 or 4 years ago, no one in their mind would have believed this. So I think it's just a shout out to this amazing team. Like I think it was like actually Tim Cook even said this, and Elon has mentioned this too. He's like, well, maybe we should have someone who can kind of look back and just talk about all of the amazing things we've done. But the problem is they're innovating and moving so fast. Tim Cook even said that same thing. It's like they're really just looking on, okay, they finish one product, they move on to the next. They're just not living in the past. And so, but there's so many things that Tesla's doing, like whether it's the Cybercab, whether it's the Cybertruck, whether it's the Model 3, like they're just doing things that everyone told them that they would fail, right? I think they're even calling the Cybercab. I think Sawyer put out something, the car's not even out yet and still being called a futuristic flop. For the Cybercab. So
is the Model Y.
Exactly.
So is the Cybertruck. No one's going to buy that. They won't even make it.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Before you go into that, Holmars had a post about charging, and he was like letting something about how all the companies, OEMs are going to NACS, and now Tesla's moved so far advanced that now they're going wireless induction charging. It's like, man, they just keep going. Like, it's really hard to keep up. It's crazy.
Yeah, you pretty much can't. All right, so Uber wants no smoke with Tesla. What a surprise. So I think there was an interview this past week where the Uber CEO says competing with Elon Musk is no easy matter and would love to partner to Tesla to get robotaxis on his platform. I think, at least for us who follow Tesla week in, week out, I think outside of like the robot, because I think that's really the thing, even though this was like a Cybercab preview and launch, I think it was really kind of the Optimus stole the show. But when it comes to the Cybercab, I think that was the first time people, like, I was actually there and I saw, like, you saw traffic and congestion going through even though it was a closed off area. But it was the first time I was like, wow, I'm at an airport. I could totally imagine just robotaxis coming in and just picking people up and leaving. And that was the first time I feel like I actually, saw the idea become a reality. Obviously I could think it, but it was where I was like, no, this is going to happen. And, I think we all know, why is Tesla valued so high? It's because there's a lot of things in our minds that we see in the future, and that is not even completely factored in. That being Toro, Uber factored in. I mean, again, AI, battery and storage, all that stuff is like there. And you see literally the leader for what is it, like, ride hailing, the CEO of that company is like, it's not going to be easy. I think even the Waymo CEO came out saying something this week that Tesla was way ahead of Waymo and that Waymo will not be able to compete when it comes to the data. So
It's the co-founder. It's not the current
Yeah.
CEO. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was on a Spaces, and something that was eye-catching to me is the realization of how many vehicles each company has out. I think Waymo has like 700 vehicles or something like that. It's like not even close to comparison, especially when you look at the fact of the Tesla can just be put in any neighborhood, whereas they have these geofenced areas for Waymo, and I know Tesla's gonna do that sort of thing when it comes to the full Robotaxi rollout, the unsupervised. But I just thought, holy cow! I mean, like, yesterday I drove to the airport and back, never touched the steering wheel. Like, I mean, we're in it now, and it's so wild that people don't see it. Well, as we'll see later in the slide, they're seeing it now because everybody got the free trial again.
Exactly.
Well, and you figure Tesla's making 4,000 or 5,000 cars a day, and
Right.
Waymo has 700 total at all, ever, anywhere. That's when this switch is flipped, it's going to be a different world instantly. How we think about transportation will change. And I live in an area where it won't. Okay, so it'll be 6 months or a year later. It's going to change, my friend. Everything gets to you eventually.
Yeah, and I don't think it's only transportation that will change. I actually think manufacturing will change as well. I have this crazy theory I brought up the day after We Robots, which is the Stellantis chair was obviously there, and they're in a bad situation. They published their numbers yesterday. I mean, it's horrendously bad. Lots of brands over so many countries. Just the whole mass seems to be difficult to manage. But they have a 50 billion euro, so that's about 60 billion or 55 billion dollar budget set aside to be 100% battery electric vehicles by 2030, 100% in Europe and 50% in the United States. If you think about it, $55 billion, that pays you actually factories. That is not just, retooling or whatever. And I think this is crazy, and this is me spinning. But I think that it could very well be that they're not only licensing FSD, which so many will do, just it has to break the dam, and then that will be that, but that they will actually be the first ones for remember, the factory is the product, where they are going to ask Tesla to help them build new factories. Just because the whole way Tesla has set this up, Waymo now 700 cars with I don't know how much hardware at a horrendous price on their roofs, while Teslas in the millions drive around with 8 cameras and it works. So and you know, nobody even sees where they are. So the whole difference bottom up of getting this right from the start and doing the hard and tough decisions very early so that the infrastructure, once this is ready, is just in place, is paying off now, and they can't catch up. I mean, nobody is going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to put these Waymo things on the roof. And even if they manage to get them smaller, it is still in the old OEM thinking of, I have 40,000 suppliers, and this tool I get from Ukraine, and this tool I get from Israel, and this tool I get from South Africa. And that's just done. That's, you know, this hard mission of vertical integration that Tesla was after for decades now, right? Where they were making sure anything that was indispensable was actually made in-house. They all did from the ground up everything wrong, the OEMs, just because they became complacent, and one change of a model to the next one was the size of the cup holder. And when you get to that point, and at the same time, what we saw in the second chart, your luxury brand is selling less and less cars while Tesla is selling more and more. At one point, you come to the conclusion that you've been on the wrong path. And I think we are there now. Some of them are so full of themselves that they don't want to admit it. Some of them have industrial partnerships that don't allow them to admit it, just because they're in contracts or they're in franchise contracts that make them vulnerable if they admit any of it. Stellantis is not in that case, because I mean, there's so much happening at Stellantis that they may as well say, well, we're going that way. But I do believe the next 5 to 10 years, it's not only full self-driving that's changing. It is the complete way of manufacturing cars, and you either play the game or you're out.
So let's talk about factory as a service, because that is a brilliant point you brought up. Could they sell them the whole factory? Sure. Could they just build the factory and run it for them and just produce Stellantis branded cars? Yeah, they could. You could say, it's Stellantis, Tesla inside, like Intel. If you look at even Tesla's Gen 2 factory, Shanghai, 10 million square feet, produces 1 million cars a year. For every 10 square feet of factory floor, they produce a car a year. That is insane. And Unboxed is going to be even better. Giga Texas is even better optimized. So if you're looking at building cars, it's cheaper to do that. It would be cheaper to buy Teslas, to pay Tesla to build your car, pay them a markup, and then charge a markup, than to sell the garbage you're selling now. And if you look at what you were saying about the approach with Waymo and their cost problem, they're taking the most expensive thing, a passenger vehicle, and then adding stuff to it. Where the Robotaxi is taking a car that's already cheaper and removing the most expensive parts of it. So the equation is, 150,000 versus 25, 30,000. It makes no sense, and it's going to create nothing but obstacles. If the life of your Hyundai, Waymo just partnered with Hyundai. If the life of that vehicle is 150,000 miles and the car costs 150 grand, that's $1 a mile plus interest that you have to add to every fare just to pay for the car. And it doesn't make sense.
Good point, Ryan. Very good points.
So we're gonna drop the mic on that one.
Yeah. I feel like we're really at this point, and I think Tesla really, they broke the internet this past week. With the fact that, again, what they showcased was the future. And I think, you said it, both of you said it right, where it's not going to make sense. I saw Waymo the other day, right? And who knows how much they're paying for the Jaguar I-Pace, even if they're getting a discount, 45, 50,000, maybe 60,000, whatever the number is. But by the time you add on all those cameras, as you were saying, they're going to get up to these insane numbers.
Yeah.
And
if the car was free, it would still be too expensive.
Yeah.
To then drive in a grid where somebody is supervising it.
Right.
And the whole thing doesn't make any sense if you think about it. But obviously, in the old model, that's how it worked, right?
Right.
And then comes Tesla and does it completely different. Everybody thinks, well, yeah, give it a try, guy. and then it works, right? Like so much. I mean, I think you were at the Sunday Star Base event. So I mean, so many things just work because you build them up from bottom up. You think it through from the beginning. You make it efficient. You manage your teams for even higher efficiency every single day. And there we are. We had a very good discussion this week. I'm sorry, I don't want to monopolize the show, but
fine.
a very good a good discussion this week with Rohan Patel. It started off as political discrepancies between Jeff and me and him, but it actually was really good in insights on what he told us about the way Tesla functions. And I asked him whether it was a frustration for him that he had been sourcing so many international locations, right? The last couple of years, it was to the point, Rohan would have a tweet in the morning at 5:00. And we were like, okay, if it's 5:00, where is he? Is he in Indonesia? Is he in Mexico? Whatever. We're spinning the whole thing because we were expecting the next gigafactory to be announced. And so he was explaining, but first of all, some of his visits were to open sales channels or to whatever else, but that wasn't always a gigafactory. But there were obviously discussions about gigafactories. And I said, so was it a frustration that these didn't see the day? And he said, no, there is no frustration. Tesla has today a negotiating power with any country in the world. So the fact that, you leave the discussion, it takes 100 countries discussion to finally commit to the one. And I mean, he didn't say it that way, but I interpret it that way, that you press so much to get so much out of them because, have 99 others that you could go to and they know it as well. And this pressure, I don't think anybody else has today the power to do this. And so as I asked him, Mexico is going to see the day or whatever, he said, well, obviously it was answered, depends on politics, but Austin has made so much progress and so much efficiency progress. It is the best factory in the world. So why would you just open up other ones while this way, and obviously Shanghai, let's not even talk about it because that's a completely other chapter. Why would you suddenly open other countries at the moment when this is all working in the measure you need it? And there will be other factories, I'm convinced.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. There's idle capacity in Austin and Berlin. Let's focus on that first. I think if we're going to be building a compact that's based on the 3 and Y, which has been choreographed for a quarter or two now, it would make sense to just use the existing factories with the existing lines. And as soon as we know the new products and what we believe the demand will be, of course, build stuff there. I'm looking forward to seeing mega factories around the world. I think that'll be coming after Shanghai is fully ramped because those are very bulky and cumbersome to move. But yeah, it's when you've got capacity, why spend money? Why deploy capital that you might need for something else?
One thing I wanted to say, it's interesting how, you guys were talking a little bit about how, how big of an advantage that Tesla has with vertical integration and everything else that they're doing. It kind of reminds me, it's like the biggest or the hardest thing that they were doing for all these years has now become the thing that is letting them take advantage and lead in every, right? Because they were doing electric vehicles. Obviously, there was, a couple other companies, the EV1, all those other things, but they're the ones that really became the kingpin. But because they did that, and because they were pretty much pioneering the space as far as mass scaling these, that crux became like the thing that literally probably almost like literally killed Elon, as he would say, has become the thing that has given them the biggest advantage, right? Is like this manufacturing and production. And it's crazy because they were so far ahead of the game. And yet that's the thing that killed them for being so forward thinking, that now that's the thing that's helping them the most. And no one else is going to be able to scale by any means when it comes to robots, when it comes to manufacturing electric vehicles at a profitable amount, whether it's AI, I mean, battery store. It's just, yeah, I think, like I said, we get into, we follow this stuff all the time, and it's easy to just like forget. No one in their right mind would have ever thought that Tesla would showcase a chart like this.
Yeah. Let me jump in just a second, John.
Yeah, of
You're
course.
completely right for anything that is OEM in America and in Europe. Completely right. But where I want to caution a little bit is China, just because they're also, for them, it's also a new industry. So they are building factories as a copy of what Tesla is shown them to do it. And even trying to push it further. I'm not sure whether that is really an efficiency bringer or not. I have no idea about that. But it is also just because history is the way it is. In Europe and in the United States, the car industry is highly unionized, is highly segregated, has lived on this 40,000 supplier model for I don't know how long, needs 3 years to think about a new model. I mean, everything has just been historically built that way, and they're not in a capacity to change overnight because so much depends on it. Car suppliers are a huge part of both the US and the European economies. So that is just a fact. In China, they could learn much quicker just because it's a newer industry. I mean, we see in China companies grow and companies fail, but they have this risk taking capacity and a lot of subsidies. So yes, while I don't think anybody from Europe and America can compete with Tesla in the medium and long term, except if they really adopt Tesla's methods, China is another subject. I think the Chinese are ready to do it, have cheap labor. I mean, that 50% of Tesla's cars come out of China. In their case, 100% of their cars come out of China. So with China conditions, with China pricing, and if they get into Europe or if they get into the United States, that will be the real competition. And don't forget, they're already getting into Australia, Africa, South America. So they are already conquering the world, not the way we would do it, because we usually start from the top and then go top down. They go bottom up. But you will see the competition will come from there, both on price and on technology and on efficiency.
Yeah, and even Sandia has been a very big component of trying to yell this from the mountaintops to people. Like, these cars are not trash. Like, if you get a chance to look at some of these vehicles made in China, they get in, they recognize the person. People can talk to these vehicles. They have like they talk back, and I mean, like, the whole Weibo thing over there is like insane. So integrating that into the vehicles, yeah, don't sleep on China. But I like I like everything you guys are saying. And I like the fact that we realize what a lot of people don't realize is where Tesla's at in this stage of the game. And it's still so early that it's like insane to even think about how far ahead they are. And there's other companies making robots. There's other companies making, cyber taxis. There's other companies making, like, I mean, like, everybody's making all these different things, but you got one company making all of these things, and that's kind of crazy.
Definitely. Well, so one big thing that was showcased is they literally released another video, which I'm going to just show a part of it. So let's get into, I'm just going to show the part where it's like walking upstairs. It's also can find the charging port by itself. So let's go ahead and... All right. So what did you guys think of this? I mean, this is crazy because it's like, I think after a week after the event, they're doing all this stuff behind the scenes. Everyone's like, oh, those robots were Joe teleoperated, right? Like, there was just a bunch of things where it was like, no, it was someone behind the scenes, or it was literally like even people were saying it was a suit still. But like, they're releasing these videos where it can, I mean, again, this is partially just painting the vision, but also in some ways they're already doing it. These robots can walk upstairs. They can walk autonomously throughout the factory. They can find their charge port. They can also deal with unsafe behavior when, you know, other people are around. So I don't know if you got any big gleanings from this, or what your thoughts were.
I don't know if that's the current generation. I am absolutely confident that what they are willing to show us is not the latest and greatest, because Elon has said that every time they would show a bot video, the competition would pounce, and they don't want to share too much, don't want to tip the hand. So I think what we're seeing is good. I think they could absolutely release it today if they wanted to, but it would need a lot of guidance. It would need an amount of guidance that Tesla is not doesn't feel is acceptable. They want to release it when it is absolutely ready, just like the Cybertruck. They could have released it 3 years earlier if they just slapped a shell on a Model X frame and called it a day. But what they wanted to do was make it right. So that's what I think they're doing.
Alexandra or Joe?
Yeah, well, I think there are two major things standing out. None of the current bot builders would have dared to put 19 or 20 bots into a public space walking around. I mean, that it's by itself, the fact that they coordinate, that they walk by themselves, that they see the others, that they do that. I think, honestly, you probably all saw that video because it has at 1.5 million views, where I intervened with one of the first bots because we were standing at that part. I didn't like to be too much in the crowded area. I was completely fooled when they started talking. I thought they were talking, right? I'm such a naive grandmother. There's no doubt about it. And so when we started talking, I felt that was normal. And then when people told me, no, this is teleoperated, is not talking, I thought, well, why did they do that? I mean, why this is a self-inflicted issue if you present something that doesn't really work. And then I thought about it a couple of days, and I've come to the conclusion, well, it probably was, not that it was necessary for me, but it was probably worse. It was done to show people where the future will take us, that we will interact by language with these bots, and that this is not that far away, even though it's not today. Be it, I mean, again, I could have lived without them talking, but the whole way of situating themselves, moving smoothly, fair enough, it's still flat terrain, but I mean, in the video you saw they're doing steps now up the stairs. So it is astonishing how quick it goes, and they're way ahead of their competition. And I just want to point out, you have, obviously, I would say now, a dozen of bot developing companies, out of which Tesla has by far the most means and the probably the best teams. And there may be a single person also very good in a different team, but the fact that Tesla can really assemble so many key players and make them work together on it makes them so strong. And they've clearly taken a lead now. I mean, I'm convinced that any of the competitors were looking at these videos of Thursday night and now this one coming out, thinking, holy moly, I was going to say it, I'm not going to ruin your monetization, John, holy moly. So because this is another milestone, and they have gone and done the part en masse, not just one guy, one bot doing it in a lab setting, but in public, and then in the video, actively interacting, letting people choose what they want to drink or eat or whatever, helping that. So it was gorgeous to watch, no doubt about it. But it was also a message to competitors, look where we are. And you're right, Brian, this is probably not the latest and greatest yet. So my gosh, to the others. I mean, try to keep up, guys.
The manufacturing advantage is the critical thing. Boston Dynamics had that fantastic Atlas bot that would have cost an infinite amount of money to deploy. It was never meant to be built. But all these other guys, they're really trying to make it in a way that's manufacturable. Great, but you don't have factories, you don't have experience, you don't have expertise. If your bot is every bit as good as Optimus, it's going to cost twice as much.
Exactly, $20,000. Everybody's going, oh my gosh, where are my billions? Where I'm supposed to be winning on this whole thing? Because that's as bad as you tell the market, look, the Model 3 is now $30,000, because that's just, for other OEMs, that is just so painful. And the bot at $20,000 is the same issue.
Nissan was furious because Tesla lowered prices in Australia. They said, "What are you trying to do to us?" And we're trying to sell cars. What are you doing?
We're trying to sell cars too.
We're not part of a cartel here, guys. The price is whatever the market will bear, as long as we're still making it. You guys aren't making a profit? Oh, Nissan.
One question I have was, also too, how much of that, because obviously they talked a lot, Ashok released, some stats on all of the training that they were able to do it that night as well. I would assume that with the bots, it was the same thing, right? That they were able to accomplish a lot of training and even if it was partially teleoperated, I would assume that there was a lot of like real life stats that they were able to do as it's like walking around and dancing and dealing with the questions. Or are we saying that there was like potentially no training that was happening that night?
No, there's like at least 3 of the team members on X that spoke out about how advanced that training data was for them that night. And like Brian and Alexandra pointed out, this is like the first time of any of the companies that are making robots, and there are many, that you've seen robots just walking amongst people. Like usually it's a controlled environment and people do their one-on-ones, or like, what I mean? Like it's like a one area, one room, and that sort of thing. And people come through and they get to see it doing its thing. But yeah, no, the team spoke out. There's been a few members from the team that spoke out and made list of, man, we've made so many improvements, and this was a great night for us. And I think at the end of the day, that's really what it was about. Is just a lot of these guys, man, they're under NDAs and they probably are dealing with their family and friends like every day, and they can't say crap about what they're doing. Now they can speak about it. Like now they get to brag, they get to be like, man, this is what I've been working on. Look at all this, look what's coming, type of deal. And I think that's a big thing, because Tesla keeps so much under wraps, and like Brian pointed out, that hand isn't the latest hand. So you already know there's more advancements that are coming, and yeah, they're not going to show their everything right now. I was in the spaces, and one of the guys who handled the teleprompter said that there was a lot more on the script, and Elon just skipped over it and got rid of it because he realized who was in the audience, and he didn't want to like say a lot of things that he had slated to say. And a lot of that was information that people would have wanted to hear, but yeah, you can't put everything out.
For sure. Well, let's jump into the next section. All right, Joe, to you.
Yeah, how incredible is this, right? Like, so DHL, because this was in Lathrop, shout out to my hood. No, I was kidding. So DHL has got to test the semi, and they were ecstatic. They said these results exceeded our expectations and even Tesla's own ratings. So, and they said, Tesla's ready for prime time. They loved it. They get it, and they're realizing the benefits of what Frito-Lay and Pepsi has been realizing. And Zangler has some crazy shots right now where there's like way more semis, and I think by the latest count, Pepsi has like all of theirs. And so now these other ones are just going out to everybody else who is next on the list. There's so many semis that are being made. So I think this is cool. I know Tesla's going to put some in their fleet, but for everybody else to realize what we realize now, this is a pretty big statement, especially from somebody separate that's not like in bed with Tesla, or DHL has never done anything with Tesla. I don't even think they have any Rivians on their thing, but so this is pretty big.
It is. And then Elon commented the semi is going to be sold globally, which I think is also really a good news, because so far it was all about these medium range deliveries here in the United States, which, as you all know, in the United States, medium range is probably what anybody else may ever need. Maybe China needs medium range as well, but in Europe, medium range is long range. So the fact that it's going to be sold globally is a good news.
I would say that on the range, I'm not surprised one bit that it exceeded the stated range. There were concerns early on. People said, well, Tesla says it's going to have 500 miles of range, but you know how Tesla is. Commercial customers don't stand for that. They need the real numbers under actual use case, not optimized, no gaming the system. So they had to hit the real numbers. And we're seeing that Tesla is making that shift. First, the EPA slightly adjusted their rules. All the vehicles suddenly had slightly less range, more accurate to a lot of real world applications. But we're seeing, like with the Model 3 Highland refresh, it exceeds its stated range in a lot of tests. That's what we needed. The fact that we're seeing so many trucks pouring out of the pilot line, even in advance of the new factory for semis being complete, tells us it is not just design locked, it is ready. They are producing them, they are selling them. And when you want to sell them worldwide, isn't it nice that the driver is in the center instead of on the left or right? You don't have to flip it. Just like Cybercab, it is left-hand, right-hand drive agnostic, and you just need one design.
I didn't even think about that. That's amazing, Brian.
Yeah,
I really didn't even think
baby.
about that.
That's what I do.
That's why we pay Brian the big bucks.
Actually, I should admit, full disclosure on my bribe, I do have my takeover swag. So
hey, don't be showing people on camera that, man. We don't want to be telling people how we're
making everybody jealous.
Exactly. All right. So one other big thing there, obviously just ride hailing in general, like we know that what was showcased there is really the future and just the potential total addressable market. People are saying it potentially $11 trillion. We have Tasha from ARK Invest saying on 1010, Elon said that Tesla could charge 40 cents per mile at scale for the Robotaxi service. Here's why that matters. With a lower price per mile, the market for ride hail expands far past what Uber and Didi occupy today, reaching what could be greater than $10 trillion market. This is just like, I mean, I think people forget when you have a model where it's like the Cybercab is just, being called, it comes to you, again, the full vertical integration. They own the app, they own the car, they make all of the cameras, pretty much all the products. Obviously, there's probably going to be a couple of parts that aren't completely built by them. But when you get something this low, you can't compete whether you're a Waymo. I mean, we already talked about that. We talked about some of these other competitors out there. Like, I mean, she's even bringing up Didi and Uber and some of these other things. It's just Tesla's going to be so far ahead because they are building something. They're building everything together. They're not buying the car and then throwing a bunch of stuff on top of it, right? So I think it's going to be a really, really exciting time to see what they're up to. But what did you guys think about what Tasha said, or even just this?
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Can I jump here? I love what she said, but I do believe she got one thing wrong. Is if I understood it right, and I can go back and listen to it again, it was 20 cents cost, and then with taxes and everything else, it was going to be between 35 and 40 or 30 and 35. So it's not that they're going to sell it at 40 cents a mile. I don't think they're going to sell it at 40 cents a mile. That would be really stupid. That would be too much low margin. And why do it so low when everything else is so high? So I just want to put that little reserve there. When she brought that out, I already called it out. I didn't get an answer from them, and I will go back to the We Robots presentation and listen to it. But I'm quite convinced he spoke about cost and not price.
That's what he said. You're right. It was 20 cents plus taxes would get to 40. But yeah, there's no way that they would sell it at that. They got to do a profit margin, right?
Exactly.
Right. Yep. I put out a video this morning about Robotaxi price. I crunched the numbers based on 3 and Y, revisited them this week, got it out this morning. And yeah, even at $1, it is a heck of a bargain, and it is potentially low enough at that price point to convince people, I don't even need a car. I'll just get one when I need it instead. But yeah, 40 cents cost is reasonable for my cost, not for, the retail price.
Well, Chris and his wife, Dirty Tesla, they went ahead and took a Waymo ride, right? But funny thing is they had to spend like $20 to get to the Waymo because it's a geofenced area and it wouldn't come pick them up from their hotel. So they had to take an Uber to an area so they could ride. So, I mean, it becomes really expensive once you really think about the geofencing and where you can actually do this sort of thing, as opposed to like Tesla's eventual, like not at the launch, but eventually it's going to be like everywhere. And not only thinking about the cybercab, but like just people doing Uber that own Teslas, and they don't have to drive, they're just supervising the ride. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty incredible. So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see.
Joe, to you.
Yeah, check this out, huh? Hey, everybody's enjoying
for all.
FSD. So yeah, this morning, like a few of my friends who have hardware 3 vehicles. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. So we were having a discussion about how is this gonna roll out? I have hardware 3, and I don't even have like 12.5 or whatever. And I was like, it's coming eventually, like just calm down. And then literally like 24 hours later, they get this update. It was hilarious to watch the group chat change. So I think this is amazing. I think, like, I mean, Ashok already had this. He was already doing it, but like he gets promoted and like like all these things just start, like it's a snowball effect. Like he is incredible, man. Like this is, I don't know, man. I know people were really kind of unsure about him in the beginning after the leaving of the previous, but he is crushing it, and like the team is moving forward, and like there's a lot happening, and it seems like he's in it for a lot more years now. And I just really like to see the development, the advancement that Tesla's moving, and the pace at which they're moving at. Like people were like downplaying, oh, is hardware 3 even capable of handling this? It's like, of course it is. It's been doing it. It's just been supervised this whole time. So it can handle it. But the doubt that even some of the strongest backers had in Tesla's ability to do this on hardware 3 was kind of interesting to me to watch over the past few weeks.
So I had a couple thoughts on that. Version 13 is supposed to come out this month. Tesla AI account on X told us that in August, and it appears to still be the case. I would have just figured they would wait until 13 to do the next free trial. And it looks like, and I could be mistaken, but it looks like that free trial extends by 1 month anyone who has a monthly subscription. They will not be charging you for 1 month. And I'd be curious what a hit to the margin that would introduce. Do you have any thoughts on that, Alexandra? If all the people paying,
I have no idea yet on take rate, but I can tell you, I went on and off on subscription. I did the first one, I think, a year ago, and then it wasn't to my liking. I was still scared like a little baby, and then tried 6 months later again, same thing. And then Omar told me, you just stop and you wait until I give you green light. I said, okay, fair enough. And then at 12.5.4, when he had that, we had a space, and he said, Alexandra, you can go for it now. And so when I was able to, so I subscribed, took 2 or 3 weeks to actually get then 12.5.4.1. So I have it now for 2 weeks, and I've not driven a mile without it. To LA, around LA, back home, in Santa Barbara. And Santa Barbara has always been one of those places that, we were edgy. Santa Barbara is a complicated, it's more like, old style European way of roads, little windy stuff up the hills, whatever. Perfect, absolutely perfect. Every trip I did, I can't do without it anymore. I still haven't figured out how to auto park with my X, because it's it's with the little screen and it's with the right little wheel and whatever. So I hope I get there to understand how to auto park. But all the rest, it is just amazing. I love it. And so what happens? I call my friends who have Teslas but no subscription. My son yesterday, I said, you have to subscribe. This is the moment. And so I do believe subscription rates will increase dramatically, especially if they do another 3 months. So I wouldn't worry about the 1 month loss for those that have subscribed and now get a 3 months, because this is the version, and I mean 13 probably even more, where people have to try it, get comfortable with it. I have no fear factor anymore, and I don't know what that is doable for you guys who are so early adopters and got it. But I was like, if this is not driving me exactly the way I would drive, I'm not going to do it. And it's actually driving better than me, which probably is not a huge feast, but it gives me the comfort that I'm right to trust the machine. And wonderful, absolutely great. So people can go ahead now. They've got it, Tesla Boomer Mama approved. They should really do it.
You heard it here first.
And I
Tesla
was
Boomer
deeply
Mama
skeptical.
endorsed.
Yeah, and I was deeply skeptical of version 11. It didn't work well where I live. And version 12, from I'd say 3 on, I'm on 12.541 now, is so good that I just cannot imagine going back. I will absolutely continue this service as long as it remains sufficiently affordable.
Yeah, and I think like what you guys are expressing here on this pod is exactly what's going to happen to the greater everyone else once they try it and realize, like, man, how could I even go back afterwards? Because I realize that now, like, even like driving home last night, it was like I was giving somebody a ride and they were telling me like, oh, turn on this street, and I was like, see, this is why I would have had FSD on, because it would have told me just exactly where to turn, instead of like me trying to figure out, not that turn, oh, do the next turn. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, yeah, I use it all the time, and I just couldn't picture doing anything without it. But I think like this is like that cell phone moment where you don't mean the smartphone, where people realize like, how do we even do things like before?
Exactly. And it will become, actually, because what happens at the moment is we wonder how our subscription rates going up, or how our purchasing rates going up. Because for me, I'm in the process of ordering a Cybertruck. It's just too early compared to the end of the lease of my ex. And the Cybertruck you have to finance. You can't just lease it. So that's fine with me. And I'm obviously going to buy for the first time FSD, $8,000, but that's just the way it is. So and there's no doubt for me that I want to buy it now. I don't want to just stay on the subscription model. And but FSD will become, in the next step, the reasons why people buy Teslas, right? At the moment, we're convincing Tesla owners to now subscribe. But the next step will be that the general public will say, wow, this is working. We've tested this, or we've been with friends, or we've seen somebody use it. And now I don't want any other car, because no other car has it. So there will be a phase until these other OEMs adopt it, and the 3 years it takes them to actually put it in place, where Tesla has this whole market to itself of people who want a car that is full self-driving. They may not be yet in the Robotaxi mode. That's the next step. But they will be in the mode of saying, okay, I don't want to drive all the time. I want to have this assistance. I want to have the security. I have children that are now 16, 18, 20. I want to make sure they come home at night. So there are so many reasons why you would want that at the moment you don't even consider yet. And the second you understand what this all means and you've tested it, becomes the main reasons why you buy this.
There was one article that I think I may have reposted. I saw it, but just how females actually will feel more comfortable with like a cyber cab or a robotaxi, because of the fact that they don't have to deal with, someone that they don't know in the car, right? And so I think, outside of being in San Francisco or, a major city where someone can grab you as you're going in anyways, which could happen whether it's someone's there or not. But this actually would, be a potential opportunity for even more safety and more comfort for the riders as well.
And not only women, also for teenagers, children. When you have to bring the kid to football, whatever, you'll be more safe or more happy if it's a cybercab. But also for the whole generation. I'm sorry, that's not your age, but mine it is. 60 plus, where you just feel like you've lived all your life with the comfort of a car, but you don't want to drive all the time. But the cybercab gives you, well, the cleanliness and the feeling that you are by yourself in there and not sharing the space with somebody else, not having somebody else's noises and odors and whatever, but just by yourself. That is a huge topic for elderly people.
Definitely. So China just released number 3 million, which is crazy. Just already when you think of the 7 million Teslas that are probably passed now, Shanghai has already done 3 of the 7, which is crazy. So, how quickly they, what used to be a swamp, I remember forgetting his name. The real Chow? I'm forgetting his name. But either way, I remember, just like every factory that happens, there's always going to be some local that's going to go there every day. But I remember this person would go there every day, and it was like a swamp is what it was called. And or the people that hated Tesla, and just here they are now, almost 50% of all the production, and at some point they will get over that 50% mark and continue to drive a lot of volume.
In 2019, I was following the construction of the Giga Shanghai. I was watching Wua's drone footage and Jason Yang's drone footage, and I was doing my Square tracker, even though I didn't have a channel. It was just fun for me to do. I just can't help it when it comes to a spreadsheet. And it was based on the strength of Fremont and the half-complete Giga Shanghai that made me invest. And when the stock took a dip in May, I said, you know what? Now is the time. I feel good about this. I think Tesla will outperform the market over a 10-year horizon. And my cost basis on those shares that I bought in 2019 is something like under $14 split adjusted. So it's all in my retirement. I can't touch it. So I'm, the poorest rich person, or the richest poor person. Either way doesn't help me. But watching that go up, how could you look at that just a mud field and not recognize what's coming, what's looming right there on the horizon? And then as the walls closed off, as test vehicles, as sale-ready vehicles start piling up in the lot outside, people were still saying, boy, I don't know about this company. What are you talking about?
But be assured, right? Even those $14 shares, you got Gordon Johnson's approval because he thinks it will go to $25. Oh, sorry, $24.86.
Well, technically,
where does that number come from?
I can tell you, but I'm not going to say it this time.
Under his hat. Hey, but technically your shares did double, and he still wouldn't have, back in 5 years ago, he wouldn't have even, he still would have said it would have been $3. So,
yeah.
All right, let's get into the beat. This is going to be, we'll have to get Alexandra to actually do the first one because she's new. And,
my gosh.
yeah, so since you've been gone in the past couple of weeks, we started, Joe came up with a great idea to take an article and just give us your first thoughts. It could be anything EV, SpaceX, kind of Neuralink, anything related. So, all right, well, here it is. Car and driver positive Model 3 review. So this is the latest Model 3 is vastly quieter than before and far more highway range. This wasn't a good one.
They're seeing the light.
About time.
Really?
Not just positive, but glowing.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're seeing the light. Thank you for giving me the privilege to smile over this one.
All right, Brian, you're going to get the next one. Cybertruck power share coming in 2025.
One of the biggest obstacles we're having with power share isn't Tesla, it's the utilities that are in charge of permitting it. And in a lot of cases, the utilities don't want to do anything to help you. Don't you understand? This is all about us. How is this good for me? Increasingly, utilities are recognizing that things like power share are actually good for everyone. Just enable it. So why the delay? I don't know. I think they've got a lot of irons in the fire and they've had to prioritize other things over this. I don't know which ones because this division is probably taking on some supercharger roles that they hadn't been before. This is all just good news.
Yep.
Joe, promoting your talent is better is betting on the future.
Yeah, I think this was, like as I said before, this is a huge win for Tesla to retain top talent, and I think promoting Ashok was like a really good move. And then the other subsequent promotions that came after that, those were all great people that now step into different roles. Like, it's pretty awesome, the domino effect of this.
Definitely. All right, Alexandra, back to you. Dutch, 100,000 registered Teslas. They probably don't make much there.
I mean, Joe's completely right. It's probably nothing, especially since the Netherlands is so many people and so many cars. This is great. This is just, and the Netherlands will be the first ones to catch up with Norway. No doubt about it.
Man, it's looking that way for real, for real.
Brian, looks like Stanislaus. I can't say this name. I'm but whatever. Stellantis. I like talk about it once a week. That's why. Stellantis to sell off struggling brands.
Well, first of all, it says don't laugh. So right there, you've already missed the mark.
Joe corrected me.
The lost city of Stellantis could be selling off brands. We've seen it with brands like Hummer, which has changed hands a few times, but a lot of the British brands are no longer British owned. They're owned by companies in India and China. If you've got a small sub brand and you're not making any money, it's worth more in scrap than it is as its own thing. And if somebody else can make a go of it, let it happen. MG sells well in the UK, even though it is not a British brand any longer. It's made in China. But there's still some brand affinity that I suspect gives it an advantage. And if people like it, people like it. It's a reasonably good car. So if Stellantis needs to do that, great. But you know what you should do is don't sell them. Hire someone to build them for you. Who could that be?
Who would have thought? Alexandra, do you want to say something?
No, I'm fine. I mean, I think Stellantis might sell because it gives them extra cash. They're in no lack of brands. They have brands. They can go shopping with the brands for quite a while. They have to strategically think which ones they want to keep, put the chassis, for the production line, the chassis, the powertrain, and obviously the whole tech of Tesla in it, then wrap it as whatever it is, Ram or Jeep or Fiat or whatever else they want to call it, and sell it. It's the only way for them to survive. I think they see it, we see it, and it just has to happen. Now, this is going to be painful because there's so much union involved in Stellantis. This is going to be a real headache. I don't want to be in their place. The current CEO is retiring. You know, the Portuguese Travernos or whatever his name is. I'm very bad with names. He's retiring beginning of January 26th. So they are looking for a replacement for him. There were quite a few rumors that it could be somebody from Tesla. I don't know. I mean, we will see. But the next 2 or 3 years for Stellantis is going to be so painful.
No doubt.
The 2 years is just the beginning of the hurt. It's gonna. they've got some work to do.
It is just the beginning for them. Joe, SpaceX is pretty good with chopsticks. Karate Kid.
Yeah, how incredible was this to watch, man? This is like really, really impressive that they were able to catch the Falcon Heavy. Like, I don't, everything they do. And the more footage you see, like the close-up shots of it landing on those, like the pins, like perfectly, like, I don't know. It was really, really incredible. Don't doubt Elon. Anybody, just don't doubt Elon. I see people do it all the time, and it never works out well. It never works out well for them.
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. If you'd have asked me or almost anyone I know 5 minutes before launch what's going to happen, I don't know any of us who said it will result in a successful, flawless catch. There's just too many things that can go wrong, but didn't. Everything just worked. And those little pegs, they're only 16 centimeters, so about 6 inches across, and they're only on 2 sides. It's not like they go all the way around. It's not like it's a whole lip. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible for me. Like, I was watching it. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it out this time. But it was just incredible to watch, to see it happen the very first time, because I've been to 3 out of the previous 4. And I never, I think they thought a couple of times. I was hoping for this because I can only imagine what the regulators would have done if this thing blew up. So it's just the irony of it all too, where it's like regulation, they're going through every regulation hurdle you can think of. And so if this thing did fail, it's interesting because it's like, the odds for them to make this happen are really slim, but they also can't fail at the same time because of all of these crazy regulations. So for them, it's like, it's literally just like kind of like the Karate Kid, right? It's like catching the fly as it's moving with the chopsticks, right? It's just and yet how much time did the Karate Kid practice? I mean, you got to practice a lot to make something like that happen. This was happening in the first try. So I'm really just, proud of the SpaceX team, proud of Elon, and to be able to get this big hurdle. And hopefully this can help speed up some of their, even doing more launches in the future. So
when you look at how slow the competition is to catch up, you've seen a lot of cars that are coming out today that are not as good as a 2012 Model S in terms of software, in terms of range, in terms of efficiency. It's insane. But if you look at landing of rockets, SpaceX's first landing was 9 years ago this December, and no one has landed an orbital class rocket since. I know they all want to. They can see the cost savings, but they just can't catch up. Life is cumulative. It's all going to be on the test, and every landing SpaceX has done with the Falcon 9 up to today has been practice for this moment.
And one thing too, on the Tucker Carlson thing, I know we're actually at time, but like on one of the interviews, he was like, Tucker was like, aren't you like one of the biggest like government subsidies? And he's like, no, like our product is winning out and beating other people. So if you're making a great product and you win a contract, you're winning it out because of the competitors. So it's like at the end of the day, it's like, yes, they're getting big contracts, but it's because they're the ones putting out the product and over delivering. I mean, look at what's happening with Boeing stranding astronauts in space, and yet they're going to go clean up the mess. And yet their contract was double the amount in cost than SpaceX.
The government saves billions by paying SpaceX instead of ULA or anyone else.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we are past the hour, and I wanted to say thank you to our special guest, Alexandra. It is always good to have you back. You were former co-host with us, so thank you for dropping your dimes today.
A pleasure. Thank you.
So thanks for coming. Joe, thank you for doing the PowerPoint and just, getting all of that together this week. And then thank you, Brian, for always just dropping your knowledge, and good lemons in the back as well. When you need to. So please make sure to follow all of these people, subscribe to their channels. I tag them accordingly, and patronize them because they give up their time to make this podcast happen. We will see you next Friday at 8 a.m. PST. We'll catch you on the other side.
Hans will be back.
Yeah, I can sleep again.